I'd like to ask Mr Gooda some questions. I'll also have some questions for Mr Innes and for Ms Ryan, but I'll have to be quick, I know that. Mr Gooda, in terms of the comments, in fact, that we heard this morning, in fact, I know you were here because you were in the room, that we heard that the cutting of funding to legal centres and the provision of policy and advocacy won't have an impact on cutting that funding won't have an impact on reducing the incarceration rates of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Is that something that you have provided any comment on or looked into? In other words, how important is that funding in relation to addressing incarceration rates?
Thank you, Senator. My name is Mick Gooda, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Social Justice Commissioner. Yes, Senator, I've provided comment about the role of the advocacy within the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander legal service portfolio, and that includes the other issues that were right, not just purely the legal services, but the domestic family violence legal prevention services. I think advocacy is a really important role that our legal services have played over a period of about 35 years and have created a lot of law reform in this country. And I've got no doubt in my mind that unless we have an advocacy body, and with respect to my role, I'm actually asked by the legislation that appoints me to advocate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander issues, and I do. But it's also useful to talk to the people who work in the field, whether they're community legal services or Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander legal services. And I've got no doubt in my mind, without some advocacy around policy about law reform, that we will see an increase in incarceration rates. And I think this is one of the most crucial issues facing us in Indigenous affairs in this country. I think we're at epidemic proportions. And I can just give you a really slight example. In Queensland, it's under the Queensland legislation, prisoners can be placed on remand awaiting psychiatric reports. They've got 21 days to provide that. We're seeing anything up to 150 prisoners on remand at the moment, because anything up to 12 months waiting for those psychiatric reports to be reported, to be prepared. And my fear is, if the Queensland Government had been doing their job in making those reports available within the timeframe that's allocated of 21 days, we could see 150 people either sentenced or actually out of jail. That's just one small issue that that the National Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Services have raised with me, and I'm sure they've raised it with the Queensland Government, that we could actually get anything up to about 150 people out of jail fairly quickly just by the preparation, well, by the Queensland Government meeting their requirement under their laws to prepare those reports within 21 days. Without a legal service to advocate that, or even to raise it with me, if they're just providing frontline services, where do those 150 people go to?
Thank you. So in other words, it does play a role in addressing incarceration rates in this country?
Oh, absolutely. And when you talk to the practitioners, the people who work in the system day in, day out, with some very simple tweaks of the criminal justice system. This isn't overturning the criminal justice system. This is actually in some cases tweaking it. The practitioners actually have a lot of suggestions about how they could do that. Whether that falls into the area of advocacy, I don't know, but I know that's a lot of work that they do.
Or is that policy?